Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. I'm Bill the Dealmaker.
And I'm Pete the Rookie.
Just the two of us today, Peter.
Just the two of us, just like the old days.
Yeah, this is like going to be fun. Just you and I bantering back and forth.
Yeah, I don't have to wait.
You don't have to wait?
Yeah, I take turns.
Oh.
Yeah, when Lisa's here or anybody's here, I take turns.
Yeah?
Yeah, polite.
Why don't you put that mic a little bit closer to your mouth? Up, pick it up. There you go. Yeah, there's a little echo when you're...
Hello.
There you go.
Hello.
That's better.
Okay.
Thank you. So what's going on with you, Peter? I mean, you've been kind of like laying low. You're like, on vacation on the beach, like what's happening here?
Well, yeah, those things have been happening.
Yeah?
Yeah. Funeral.
Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, an old 95-year-old old uncle.
Oh?
But
lived a full life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he has four daughters, my cousins. They're a great family. So they live all over the country, so they wind up back right in my hometown for all the proceedings. So it was nice to see everybody.
It's not good to have the gathering because of a death, but it's good to get everybody together.
It starts sad in the morning, but by the time you get to the restaurant, everybody's fine.
That's good.
Hey, how's it been? It's
good.
That's what you do then. So just stuff like that and trying to keep up.
Okay.
This time of year, somebody has a garden and a yard and all that mess. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm cutting it less, though. I don't have time for that stuff. But it's still there.
Okay. All right, so we're on episode number 58, Peter. We're getting up there. We're getting closer and closer to that 100.
Yeah. And then there's a party?
I don't know. We can have a party whenever you want. Actually, the bigger problem with the party is our schedules.
Yeah?
It's not the party.
Well, how many times did we call each other yesterday before we could pick up the phone?
God, yeah.
3 times each? Bill. No, Pete. Bill.
I've been doing some volunteer work lately, so I'm like always on the phone these days.
Oh.
So I shouldn't be doing it. I have no room in my schedule to do it. I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it.
You're doing the right thing, aren't you?
That seems to be what I have in my head.
You will be richly rewarded.
Not doing it for that reason either.
No, but then that's why you will be richly rewarded.
I do feel
even more so.
I do feel like it's the right thing. So
yeah, I'm sure you do.
Today's show has a name that I called Common Sense, One Step at a Time Approach.
That would be good.
Common Sense, One Step at a Time Approach. Now, we talked just before the show, like minutes before the show. I wanted to put simple in it. Simple, common sense, one step at a time approach.
No,
but you brought up...
Common sense doesn't even... I don't even believe that part of it.
No?
No. I mean, you were just on the phone. I heard your conversation. There's nothing common or sensible or anything about what's going on.
Oh.
No, it's silly. People are silly.
Yeah?
People are silly.
Okay. You want to talk about what you just heard on the phone? I don't care. Mm-hmm.
No, that's just one of a long list of that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, that,
Right.
People are not very sensible lately.
Right.
Can't think straight.
Right. Yeah, there are some, especially the last couple of weeks. I don't know. I mean, my contractor says it's a full moon. So, but
for 2
he's
weeks?
all into that. He's all into that type of stuff. So, not that he's into it. I mean, that I don't even mean that. It's just that he's very attuned to that kind of thing.
It could be.
Very knowledgeable.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah. So, what I wanted to talk about today, and I sit here and I think, wow, we've only been on for like 3 or 4 minutes, and like
we're almost done.
Do we have enough content to talk for 45 minutes or an hour or a half an hour? We could do half-hour shows. If we run out of content. But it seems like we always run into, an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, there's always... Emma goes like this.
Yeah? God bless Emma. Emma and I are on a new relationship.
She's not your daughter anymore?
No, she's my daughter. But...
Get ready, Emma.
We have a new relationship.
Turn the mic on.
No, we have a new relationship.
What is it?
I run around like an idiot in my car on the phone, blatting out orders to her. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And then maybe about once every other day, we get together and we talk about things.
Oh, because you're more in your car?
I've been out.
Okay.
Dealing with, oh my God, I have a closing next week, and we had permit problems, and I'm down at the town hall, and I got to tell you, man, I have not, I can't even.
Are they
I don't
common
even
sense
know what
down
to
there?
say. No.
Are they common sense? See?
No.
That's my point.
No. I can't even emphasize what I see when I go there.
Or nor empathize.
No.
It's not understandable.
And
I hear some of it.
And at the sake of probably shooting myself in the foot, if you guys want to see some of the worst dregs of life, go to Hamden, Connecticut, in the building department and talk to those guys. Okay? Yeah. Just talk to those guys.
Bill, we got to do some business in my town because they're really, really very nice. They bend over backwards. Yeah. We'll have to come up to my zone.
and it's like their entire goal, and I'm seeing more and more of this. Their entire goal is to stop you.
Stop. That's not a good sign, you know.
And I can't tell you how many times they said to me, "But you're a flipper. You're a flipper, right? Oh, you're a flipper."
Yeah. So.
Like I have like some disease. Like I'm a flipper.
They meant it bad?
Yeah. Like
not like
well,
you're
a flipper.
knowledgeable.
No. Like I'm a dragon of life, that I'm stealing money from people, and then I'm like the worst. I'm like below like used car salesman, and I could say that because I was one of those.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like below. You know, like I'm the biggest charlatan that walked through the front door in a long time. You know, it's like I'm just I make money for nothing.
You know what I think? I think they're failures.
Oh, totally.
At that, being a contractor, flipping a house themselves, or something like that, because they have to pick on you because they can't do it.
Now I have fun with it.
Yeah, that's about the only thing you can do with it.
So I got it where you're saying about having fun. I mean, being drugged. So I have fun with that.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, the guy will be like, "You're a flipper." I'm like, sometimes. He doesn't know what to say to that.
Oh, that's good.
And the first time he's like, "What do you mean?" Well, sometimes I hold them, sometimes I flip them. So I'm not exactly a flipper. Sometimes. He didn't know what to do. You know, the interesting thing is, I went in there and I pulled my permit and I put all this stuff together, right? And I put the description of the work. Now the work's already done. That somebody turned me in, one of my contractors that I don't use anymore, which, by the way, got fully paid, and I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
And he evidently didn't think so. Well, I didn't hire him for the next job. And so about 2 months or a month and a half after I finished his house, he decided that he was going to squeal on me. So you want to know what the interesting thing is? I stand there and I filled out all the paperwork, and I put in there all the things that we did to the house.
Yeah.
I listed them on the permit. Yeah. Well, the first thing is, and I don't even know why we're off on this tangent.
Well, I think it fits your title.
Yeah. So, first thing is they tell me I got to go hire a contractor. So I'm thinking about it. I talked to my realtor, who gave me a really bright idea, and I talked to my contractor, who helped me with it, and I actually went and got my own contractor license. So in the state of Connecticut, I got a contractor's license.
Oh, how do you get one of those?
I'll show you.
Oh,
you pay money.
Oh,
but I got a contractor's license. So they told me that I needed to get a contractor. So I went, and I came back 3 or 4 days later, and I had my own license.
Huh.
So now the guy's like, "Whose license is this?" I'm like, "It's mine." He goes, "You got a contractor's license?" I'm like, "Yeah." "I told you I did the work." He's like, "Oh." And he looks up at me and he whispers, he goes, "They're pretty easy to get, huh?" I'm like, "Sure." So then I list all this stuff, and then we'll get off this topic. I list all this stuff on the permit. He reads it 4 times, like with his pen. You can see him, like, you know how people read with their pen?
They have to follow the words.
Yeah. So he's reading with his pen. So that's why I know he read it 4 times, because he did it 4 times.
Okay.
Right? And he looks up at me, right? Kind of like his head tilted up at me. He goes, "You don't need a permit for any of this stuff." I'm like, "I know." He's like, "How come we're here?" "Well, because you have bedrooms in the basement. The contractor said, whoever turned you in said you had bedrooms in the basement." Which, by the way, they're telling me that it wasn't the contractor that turned me in, it was the neighbor. It's probably one of the neighbors. But now he's telling me the reason why I got turned in is because of the bedroom. So it's like, it's just contrary facts, and we're going to talk about that in some detail today. So
yeah.
So the point is that I'm like, well, you guys say I have bedrooms on there, and I can't have bedrooms on there. I mean, the tax card says that I have a finished basement. When I bought the house, it had a finished basement. All I did was just renovate it.
Yeah.
You know, new floors. I put tile in the bathrooms. You know.
I thought I did that.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Anyways, so what happened was, he gets all done, and I'm like, the only reason why I'm getting a permit is because your boss told me that he needs to come out and inspect it and make sure there's egress windows. He says, well, if there's not egress windows, I'm telling you right now, you're not having basements. You're not having a bedroom in the basement.
Sure. And
I'm like, but there's 2 egress windows. I thought he was gonna pass out. He turned white. He said, what do you mean? I said, there's 2 egress windows in there. Right? An egress window means that it goes down in the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And it allows you, like, if you're in the basement, you can crawl out the window. Like, it's like the second floor, you know, so it's not. They want to make sure that if there's a fire and somebody's living in the basement, they can get out.
Yeah, egress is exit.
Exit, yeah.
It's get out.
Right.
Egress, get
right.
out.
Get out, that's right. So.
They have to use funny names.
Yeah. So he's like, what do you mean there's 2 egress windows? I said, I told you guys that last time I was here there's 2 egress windows. I don't understand. I'm like, I keep saying to them, I have nothing to hide. I didn't do anything wrong. So want to come check the house out? Fine, come check the house out. So I was told by your boss I got to pull a permit to have you guys come check the house out. So I pulled the permit, come check the house out.
So now, what did you need why did you need a contractor to go when it's all done? Why did you need a contractor? Because
he told me, which is not true, he told me that because I own the house, but because I don't plan on living in it, I have to have a contractor's license. If I own the house...
But didn't your contractors have contractor licenses?
Yeah, but I'm not getting them involved, because that'll just be a nightmare.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to pull them back in. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
They're gone. They're 5 fires.
That was trouble. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I'm not getting him involved.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So the interesting thing is when I pulled the contractor's license, it says the purpose of a contract, the only reason why you need a contractor's license is if you're going to charge the homeowner money. Other than that, you don't need a contractor's license.
Well, if you don't charge them money, you do it for free? No. Or is it just... What am I missing?
You have to have a contractor's license if you're going to charge money for your work.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So it has nothing to do with the work itself, the quality, your qualifications.
Oh, yeah.
It's just something that you're charging money, so we want you to have a light.
So they can control you. But that's okay, because if you're charging people money, then now you go into the regulatory, you know, like the permits and all that kind of stuff. And so,
right.
But in this particular case, I don't charge myself money. So what do I need a contractor for? You know. So, but you know, instead of pissing them off, I just kind of roll along. I mean, the license cost me $26.25. He had to make up a number. I said to him, I said, I added up how much materials I spent on the job. You want me to give you that number? It was like $13,000 and change or something like that. I mean, he's a dumbass because he could have charged me that. And so he's like, no. He says, this stuff you're doing here, he says, he gave me a piece of paper and he showed me that it's stuff that doesn't need to be, it's from the state of Connecticut, doesn't need to have a permit.
Yeah.
Right? And he circled it and said, well, you don't need, so we'll just put down here $1,000.
For the contractor license?
For how much I'm spending is $1,000 because they go off of how much the job costs, so they for the permit fees.
Oh, for permit, okay. How much was your contractor license? Was that you just said $26? Was that your contractor license?
No, we're not talking about that.
Oh, you said contractor license. Did you mean permit?
The permit. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's what it is. So for $26, I want a contractor's license. So the permit was $26.
So what happens is when you go in, they have a dollar amount of how much money you spent to have the work done, and that translates down into how much the permit should cost.
I got you. So he went from $13,000 to 1?
I didn't even give him the number. I said to him, I brought in how much materials I bought. I thought we could use that number for the permits. I mean, if they told him $13,000, I probably would have paid, I don't know, $100, $200 for a permit.
Right.
But he's like, no, I'm just going to put down here $1,000. Then he says to me, he says, I got to put something down here. He says, because, you know, when the bank comes back and all that stuff and we write our letter saying that you're all done, the girl's going to ask me how come we're pulling a permit out because you don't need a permit. So I got to put something down here. So I'm just going to put down you renovated kitchen and bathrooms, okay? And he wrote down renovate kitchens and bathrooms. So they have something to put it in.
Why did they just cancel everything when they figured out you didn't need a permit? Why don't you say, oh, never mind, go home?
Well,
Is that part of the common sense stupid?
I guess.
I mean, seriously, at that point, like, oh, you don't need a permit. Thank you, goodbye.
How hard would it be for the inspector to come out and see that there's 2 egress windows in there and say, we're sorry? But they won't. They won't. Where do they go there? The house is gorgeous. I mean, if they find stuff, it's just going to be bullshit. I mean, then as I'm leaving next thing happens, I have to go over to the tax office, right? Because I have to sign. They have to. The tax man does something to sign off on the permit to make sure that you can. I think it's probably make sure your taxes are paid, right?
Oh, okay.
So as I'm leaving, the door shuts behind me. I was telling this to Emma yesterday at lunch. The door shuts behind me, and I hear as I'm walking out the door, he yells to the boss in the back office, "What are we doing with this Lucy Street?" He says, "The guy says he's got egress windows in there, and there's no reason for us to pull a permit. Why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
I'm hoping I have an inspection tomorrow. I'm hoping I can totally diffuse it and get through my closing.
Yeah. It's so weird.
But the interesting thing is that I learned is now that I have a contractor's license, I can go into any town hall and I can just say, I'm going to renovate, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Please put it on file.
And what does that do?
It's just a record with the city saying that I did the work. So if anybody ever goes back, and wants to check it, or if the bank ever comes in and says, "Do you have a permit? Did you have permits?" I could say, "Well, I went to the town. They said I didn't need them."
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you'll be
Just on record.
on record, and if you need permits, you get permits. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So there's our tangent for today. So.
Well, I'm going to really have to practice when that stuff happens to me, because my basic approach when I have any kind of problem, I decide what needs to be done, and I tell the person what needs to be done, and I try to get them to do it. And that may sound weird, but I know people don't always do that. I'm sure you do. But that's the only thing I can think of doing in this. Just tell them what I want and just keep pushing for it.
The real
As nice as I can, so I'm not pissing them off.
The real barrier is there's 2 kinds of people in this world as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, at least.
Either you're trying to stop me or you're trying to help me.
Yep.
And these people are not trying to help me.
Yep.
So anything can. It's like walking in the woods and having one of those landmines blow up. You never know when you're going to step on it, and all of a sudden you're just in pieces.
Yep.
You got to pick up all the pieces and start over again. So common step, one step at a time approach. So in my coaching group, okay, which I have at this point, I think there's 18 people in there. I think I'm going to take a couple more, and that's it. And what we do is the coaching group is pretty cool. Probably about, I haven't added it up. In fact, I think it's more. Last time I checked, which was about a month and a half ago, 85% of my coaching clients are doing deals. Since they've been with me, they came in. They didn't have a deal, and 85% either have done a deal or are in the middle of doing a deal.
Right.
Okay, even Jessie, which is cool. Her deal is driving me crazy, but even Jessie. Because the reason why I make a big deal about that is because it's too easy for Jessie. She's been under my wing for such a long time that it was kind of hard to get her to do it instead of me doing it.
Yeah.
And not by her. It just was separating roles and stuff. So the reason why I bring up the coaching group is because so the way it works is we do a 2-hour call that always ends up being 2.5 hours, and we use Slack, which is an app, and we have a private group, and my guys upload their prospect-suspect forms. We talk about how to structure the deal, and we talk about how to, the words they should say and how they should approach the sellers. How they should close them, what paperwork they need to do. I mean, I take them through the sequence, right? And we do that on a coaching call. And usually, usually we'll do several of them on the call. And, of course, there's always lessons that come up, insurance things and contractor things. And,
everything comes up because you're in the middle of a deal, and everything that could come up does come up.
The basic thing is I'm the safety net. Or the group is the safety net, so when somebody has a problem, they can communicate with one another in Slack, and they do it outside of Slack because they've all become friends. Once in a while, we'll do a coaching day where we'll get together, and everybody will come, and we'll have lunch and that kind of stuff. Not as much as we used to, but we used to do that. So The reason why I bring all this up is because it's very hands-on. It's very helpful, because there's nothing worse in the world than try to do something and get stuck and have a question and don't have a place to get that question answered.
You know what the real big part of it is to me?
Mm-hmm.
And you know this so well, I don't know if you even think about it, but people think that the whole process is renovate the house.
Yeah.
That's the absolutely easiest part compared to everything else you got to do.
Right.
How do you find the house? How do you negotiate the sale? How do you get through the sale?
How do you get through the closings?
The closings. I just keep hearing more about that.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky on my first one, I guess, but I just keep hearing stories. I mean, that's the part that doesn't make for good TV.
Right.
So you don't see that part. It's like you're redecorating your house. No, if you can do the other parts, that's almost easy.
Well, ironically enough, the three worst enemies in a closing are the realtor, the lawyer, and the banker.
I mean, the three people involved besides you, everybody else.
Yeah. Well, no, there's the buyer and the seller, and there's contractors and all that stuff. But they have a lot of esoteric rules. They're pretty, like a bank. A bank is their rules are pertaining to them and their company. Mm-hmm. So not everybody knows them. Only the people that work for the bank know that.
Yeah.
Esoteric meaning one or only for one. You know what I mean? Or
things that you don't know about.
Very unusual. Yeah.
Yeah. Almost secret.
Insider
stuff.
As opposed to exoteric, which is everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Right. So esoteric is like one person knows it, or very few people know it. It's like the secret group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. So they'll, the bank will have rules, but only that bank and whoever deals with them know that, and they don't disclose it up front.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there like a little manual somewhere?
Yeah, right. So every loan is different. So like right now with Jesse, the big thing with Jesse is FHA. So we're dealing with FHA, and I'm surprised to realize, because I don't do that much stuff anymore, but you can't go on a website and here's the steps to get an FHA mortgage. You would think they would have a check sheet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And just go through it but they don't.
Really, you can't find it anywhere.
I haven't looked long enough, but Jesse has looked and says they can't find it.
So how do you just do what they tell you to do next?
Right.
You just ask questions?
Right.
But I never find any agency where there's 5, 10, 20, 3, 4, 100 people, everybody knows the same thing.
Right.
It's never the same. They don't have the same rules that they're playing by.
Right.
It's what they think it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, we're not babbling here. I want you to know that this is part of today's show, because this is where
you get beat up and you have to survive it to stick around.
This is what learning real estate is about, is going through these experiences, because a coach or a mentor or somebody that charges you $5 or $5,000 or $50,000 can't teach you this stuff, right? There's no way I could prepare my students for every possible scenario in a deal. Mm-hmm. Mostly because every single day I learn something new. Maybe not every day, but at least every week, anyways. There's some scenario that pops up.
Well, you just got a contractor license. How long you been doing this? And just
12
I'll
years.
Get one.
Yeah, 12 years, and I had to go get a contractor's license.
Yeah.
Right. And I've never had permit problems. And I don't, you know what I mean? You know me. I mean, I do my damnedest to stay as ethical as I can on everything. You know what I mean? I say I do my damnedest because if I'm doing it, I don't realize I'm doing it. And when I do realize it, I fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the common sense part, which you keep talking about, is the hard part, because really, what is common sense?
I don't think we really know lately. I mean, it should be common.
Yeah.
Meaning people would understand it, and it doesn't take education. It doesn't take a checklist. It shouldn't have to be written down on the wall. It should be common sense that you go down to the town hall, the guy looks at all the information, goes, "Oh, buddy, you don't need a permit.
Right.
Just you may leave now."
Right.
That would be common. It'd be sense.
Right.
But what people do is they look in a book someplace. See, what does it say here? It tells me I have to say this and do that.
Right.
Instead of just what's obviously the correct thing to do.
Yep. It's not in here.
Is it maybe under sense?
Oh, there it is. Common sense.
Okay.
understanding independent of specialized knowledge. So it's native sound or prudent judgment.
Mm-hmm. Native meaning we already have it.
So common sense means you're not trained. You should just have a natural sense of this is how it should be.
Yeah.
It just it's kind of just it makes sense.
Yeah, the problem with that is somebody has to make a decision. Somebody has to be responsible for the outcome of something instead of, well, I don't want to be responsible. Let's see what the book tells me to do. Oh, well, blah, blah. And they just follow a book instead of common sense.
So that's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
We finally got around to the heart of the show.
By defining a word.
Yeah.
Look at that. There's your lesson for today. Define your words.
So why do people not use common sense? Do you know why?
Well, I just did a small rant. I don't know if I tipped the hat here, but from my experience, not everything is written down someplace.
Right.
So somebody should be able to look at something. I mean, judges don't judge.
Right.
They look at what somebody else did as a precedent, and somebody else did, and they do what that says.
Right.
Well, somebody's got to make a decision someplace, but nobody wants to.
Right.
So they want to go, well, it says here to do that. So if they do that, it's not my fault.
Right.
So they want to be blamed. I think it's a responsibility problem, personally.
Okay.
Also, as an educator, people are not, I don't know, they don't seem to understand. They seem a little bit lost.
Yeah.
I think they get confused. I mean, there's too many kids in school. I ask questions of my kids, and they don't understand a lot of basic stuff.
I got that, all that. That's not my answer, but I want to divert for 1 second, based on what you just said.
Okay.
I saw something on the news the other day that I swear to God, I was laying in bed. It was early in the morning, and I was laying in bed. It was so bad that I almost thought I had to get up and go to the bathroom. It made me want to vomit. I got a knot in my stomach. I honestly felt sick.
What?
They were talking about employers hiring employees.
Yeah.
And the number one reason why employees don't get hired. You ready? They said 35.8%. 35.8%. That's a huge freaking number.
Yeah, it's almost a third.
Didn't get hired because they couldn't read and do basic arithmetic. 35.8% of people don't get hired because they can't read and comprehend and basic arithmetic.
Yep.
So our society is making those people. So what happens in 20 years from now?
Oh no, we're in trouble. Because we're in trouble. There was I was watching something, maybe Facebook feed. They were asking people questions like, how many stars are on the flag? Duh. They don't know how many stars in the flag. You know who knew? The lady from Brazil, the lady from Sweden, the lady from people from other countries. It was really scary.
They don't know the stars are for each one of the colonies. Huh?
I was teaching one of my students the Star Spangled Banner song, and I said, "What's a banner?"
Yeah.
What does spangled mean?
Yeah.
Now think about that. You might not know. I mean, a banner is like a flag, and spangled means decorated with multiple things, like a lot of stars.
Right.
But people don't know basic definitions, and they get lost.
Right.
They just get lost.
And not to get off, we'll get off this tangent, and not that you and I are professing that we know this stuff, because I don't feel that way at all. I mean, I know what I know.
Yeah, but you're smart enough to grab the dictionary and look at something.
Right.
And
When I
try
don't
to figure
know,
it out.
I try to figure it out.
Yeah. When Jessie was on the phone this morning, you
confused.
defined 5 words to her on the phone to help her with her well problem. There's this, and define exactly the parts. And I'm sitting there like, perfect, I never knew that.
Right.
But that's how you did it. You defined it instead of people just like yapping about something and not understand what they're talking about.
Right.
Ooh.
All right, so that all ties in with common sense. So let's go back. So that's your theory. So here's my theory, and just like you have a theory, I have a theory.
Mm-hmm. They can be all true, huh?
Yeah. So my thought is this, and I've talked about this a lot, but I don't know that I don't know. It's too simple, so I think people might skip over it.
Yeah, the simpler the better. What do you got?
Yeah. So you have an ideal scene. Or when I mean ideal scene, I'm talking about what you want it to look like, what you want it to be, the goal, whatever you want to call it. It's an ideal scene.
What you picture in your head.
Yeah. So in other words, it's the finished product.
Yep.
This is where we're going to end up. This is what it's going to look like. in the physical universe, not in your mind, because those are two different pictures.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have this, like you said, picture, okay, of what it's going to look like, right? And then you have the existing scene, which is, okay, we're here, okay, so let's just do it on a scale of 1 to 10, okay? 10 is we're finished, and 1 is where we're at. I will say on a scale of 0 to 10, 1 is where we're at. Or you're at 3, or maybe you're at 6. But the point is that you're not at 10.
Right.
Okay? So the first thing you need to do is you need to observe where you're at, which is really hard to do for a lot of people, because they put their own, like right now, if I'm looking at you, and somebody says to me, "What do you see?" and I say, and I can't say, "Well, Peter has 2 ears," because I can only see 1. Right? So I can't assume. I know you have 2 ears because I've seen it, but when you say, "What do I see?" I only see 1 ear. Because you might have lost one yesterday. I don't know.
I could have left it at home.
Right.
They're detachable, you know.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'm a musician. I blew my ears off years ago.
Yeah. It's like teeth. You can take them out and put them on the counter.
Yeah. Drill them in there.
There you go. So the first thing you need to do is you need to observe, where am I really at? Like, what is it really like?
Yeah.
Okay,
And not,
so that's a feat within itself.
Sure, because you're looking at pictures in your head, I think, or what you think you're seeing, instead of what you're really seeing.
So let's talk about Jesse's house for a second, because it just happened. So we're standing in the kitchen, and I said to her, "What are you observing?" Right? And here's the problem. This is what happens. This is like the core of what happens in this business. Okay? What do you see? So she shows me all the common things. And I said, "Okay, so anything else?" She goes, "No." I said, "Well, there's 2 more things that we haven't seen. You haven't seen." She goes, "What's that?" I said, "Well, first of all, you got in the kitchen, there's a back door entrance to the house. And then there's an entrance from the living room. And then there's an entrance from the dining room. So there's 3 doors. And then there's the basement door. So there's actually 4 entrances or 4 doors
For the kitchen?
that goes into it. It's a big kitchen.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a lot of doors.
Only 1 light switch. There's a fan light in the ceiling. And when you came in the back door, there's a light switch.
Yeah.
So if you come in from the dining room, there's no light switch. Now, the interesting thing is when you come in from the living room, if you walk straight, and it's only probably about 10, 15 feet, is the front door. So if you were to come in the front door of the house in the middle of the night and there's no light, you got to walk through the living room and into the kitchen and across the kitchen before you get a light turned on.
There's no light at the front door?
I don't know. I'm not talking about that.
Oh,
I'm just talking about not. So my point is that even if you walk through the front door and you get into the kitchen, you got to walk. So there's only 1 light switch. Now, is this a problem? No. But when you're writing a scope of work, would you notice that? Would you notice that there's 2 light switches missing? Because you don't always observe the things that are missing, right? When you're observing things that are missing, you don't know they're missing.
Yeah.
Like, remember the story I told one time about where I was in that house and I was trying to buy a house and I'm walking around the basement, couldn't figure out what I was missing?
Yeah.
And it literally took me 10 or 12 minutes to figure out there was no furnace in the house, right? Because it wasn't there. I mean, they did such a good job of, like, removing everything. I didn't even notice it was missing.
There wasn't like a square rusty spot.
Nothing. It was just missing. And it took me literally 10 or 15 minutes to kind of, and that sounds stupid, but now something as subtle as there's 1 light, 1 switch, 3 doors.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the ideal scene? The ideal scene is each room you walk into, when you walk into the kitchen, you can turn on the kitchen light. Right? That's the ideal scene.
Yeah.
What's the existing scene? Well, there's only 1 light switch there now. So now your job is to fill that gap in. Right? Yeah. So your job is to get from, let's say it's a number 3 on the scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. You're at number 3, so you need to go through the steps to get from 3 to 10.
Like you have to envision all those things happening?
Not even envision them. You just need to know you need to go that direction, and there are steps. Now, if you know the steps, that's good.
Yeah.
But a lot of our students or people listening to this podcast don't know the steps. Okay? which is the reason for coaching or mentoring, is to let you know that these steps are possible and you should look at them and make sure that you need them or don't need them. Go observe.
Yeah.
So what a good mentor program does is it gives you those things. The coach or the mentor will say, well, okay, you want to put switches in, okay, here's what we need to do. And then point you in the right direction. Now here's the most valuable part. This is the most valuable part. This is beyond valuable. I should charge everybody listening right now $1,000. I wish.
I didn't bring that much today. I can make installment payments.
Yeah, there you go. I'm only joking. So I just want to put a value.
Now, some
to
of these things are valuable. Like, what is it?
Only worry about the next step. So you know you're at step. You know that on a scale of 0 to 10, your existing scene, you're at number 3. So that means you got 7 more steps to do to get to 10. I mean, this is just an analogy so you can picture it. Okay. What step? What do you need to worry about right now? Step number 4, because you can't predict step number 8 until you've gone through 4, 5, 6, and 7.
But
because they may have things that will get in the way and distract you or divert you, or things might come up that you haven't seen. For example, okay, so we decide that we're going to do the electrical. Now we open the wall up and there's a duct in that wall and we can't put the electrical outlet there, and there's no other place to put it. That might be on step number 4, number 5. Now what happens? And if you predicted step number 8 in advance, you wouldn't know that ductwork was there and may not have seen it because of observation. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, the lack of common sense is not so much common sense, it just doesn't seem common to that person because they didn't experience in the past that there might be a duct in that wall, ductwork, like a heating duct, right, in the wall. Now, in our neck of the woods, I know that we go all over the world. I mean, we've got people everywhere, but in our neck of the woods, listening, in our neck of the woods, we have some strange things. One of the strangest things, and we're not the only ones, but we are. I mean, you have to realize where we are. We're smack dab. We are sitting right now smack dab. We go an hour and a half north. We go to Boston. We go an hour and a half south. We're in New York City.
Yep.
So we're smack dab in the middle. Which, by the way, really, if you're a sports fan, that really makes it interesting for baseball because it's either you're really diehard Boston Red Sox or you're really diehard Yankees, and it's pretty. The bars are interesting when they're playing games.
Watch the sports bars.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my students works for ESPN.
Yeah.
I was just doing some work.
So the point is that here you are, right? And you I lost my train of thought.
Well, you're on step 3.
So Boston. So you're in the middle of Boston. You're in the middle of New York. So here you are. Oh, I know what it is. So one of the interesting things that we have here is we have very old homes because we're the oldest part of the country. I mean, Boston is where it all started, right? More or less. You know what I mean? That was like one of the first colonies, right? So
Plymouth Rock and all that.
Yeah. So we have like 100-year-old houses. I mean, I can go to Durham, which is 10 minutes from my house, and there's houses that say built in 1775.
Yeah.
And they're still standing, and people live in them.
It's crazy.
Okay. Now that's not real common, but that's possible.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
But Meriden and some of the houses I deal with are 100 years old. So what happened 100 years ago? Like, for example, the ductwork. What did they do is they took tin and they nailed it to the 2x4s on the outside. So the 2x4s, like the walls, how they frame it, the 2x4s, was the ductwork. So all I did was take tin and cut it and nail it on the outside of the wall, and then plaster over the top of it. So now the ductwork.
Actually, it's literally on the outside of the wall, not even in.
It's behind the plaster.
Okay. Yeah.
It's between the 2x4 and the plaster.
Right.
Okay. I can't even say that they had sheetrock because they didn't have plasterboard. This is when they nailed up lath and they plastered it.
Yeah.
But before they put the lath up, they put these tin things up, and so the the 16 inches or 18 inches that they used was the ductwork to get the heat to the second floor. So they just nailed tin on the outside, the 2x4s on the outside of the 2x4s, and that made the truss.
Was it 4 sides of tin?
No.
Oh, just like 2 sides?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you got a 2x4, right?
Yeah.
And
just on the side of
and
the
it's a
2x4s.
wall, so
And
you
just-
picture a framed
Yeah.
wall,
Yeah.
right? They would just take a piece of tin and nail it just like they would nail up a piece of sheetrock.
Yeah.
They would nail it right to the 2x4 and make a trough.
Hmm.
Okay? So what happens if I go to Jesse's house and I find that?
Mm.
What happens if we start to, the electrician goes to cut a hole in the wall and there's tin in there. Now he's in the middle of ductwork.
Mm.
You see? So it diverted the whole thing. So the magic is to do the next step. Always do the next step and observe like mad. Like look at what's going on and try to predict what step 5 is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the first thing that happens is understanding that there's 10 steps. Right? That's the first thing that should happen. And I think that's where a lot of coaching and mentoring falls down. I'm not saying that, and I think that's where a lot of coaching and mentoring is really strong. It's because the ones that have steps, like for example, one of the things that we do is we have checklists. Like you want to do a slot deal, here's your checklist. So the first thing we do is the primary target on the checklist is read this entire checklist so you know these are all the steps, which I happen to know there's 20 steps.
Yep.
Right? So these are the 20 steps. Now go back and start with step number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Complete it, sign it off, go to step number 2. Complete it, sign it off, and when you get to step 20, you have done a slot deal and have a check. Right?
Yep.
Here's the point. If you don't know that, how can you have common sense?
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
No, you'd be buttered around all over all the steps or something. You'd be thinking, that'd be hard too, because you'd be thinking here, there, and everywhere. You'd be like worrying about this, because I've been there, like worrying about everything in a project until you take it apart.
So here's another phenomenal thing that I've just realized because of what you just said. Because some of the stuff I'm learning between you and Jesse, because you're the closest. I mean, you're not doing a deal now, so we're kind of, but between you and Jesse, I couldn't figure it out. It was like driving me nuts.
That's our job.
Well, it's working. Why you would do some things? Like for example, you were doing your closing on your condo, and it was like, to me, simple Simon. And you're like, I'm like, get another deal, like go make offers, and you're like, I can't. And you're like, why? I'm too worried about this deal. I'm thinking too much about this deal, and I'm like, Pete, this is simple Simon. I mean, it's in with the attorney. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do nothing. You just got to wait. It's all done. I've done it. We've done it. I've done it. It's done. We did it. We did it all. It's all choreographed. Then I figured it out. And because Jesse does the same thing, and I have a couple other students do the same thing. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the exact steps, like the 20 steps in the slot formula, okay, you think every piece of information is important, and you got to hang on to it. You can't decipher. You can't evaluate the information.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was on the phone with Jessie this morning, she started, right? She wants to tell me what the other realtor did. What did I say? I was rude with her, but what did I say?
Yeah, I don't care what the realtor
Give a shit. I don't want to hear that story. It's useless information. The realtor's a dumbass, doesn't know what she's talking about. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to waste my time hearing your story. I knew I needed to get on the podcast in 10 minutes. I knew I needed to get right to the blunt of it. I don't care because I read an email, and the information in the email is not correct. Right? So I know that. Do I need to absorb that information? Do I need to go through that motion?
Mm.
Yeah, I don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So when you know the steps, you know you can look at the ideal scene, and you know what the current situation is, and you know there's a gap, and you know that there's a sequence to get that gap filled. Now the only thing you need to think about are the things that are going to get you to the next step. All the other information can go away. So now you start dealing with like senior pieces of information. You're only dealing with the information that's going to get you a result. The rest of it can you don't have to hang on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hang on to it and you try to remember it all, like someday I might use it, it won't be valuable because it's just cluttering up your mind. It's like taking up space that you don't have or don't need to have.
Yep.
And it creates a mental block.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it so now what happens is if somebody like me comes along, right, and you'll question, should I hire him as a coach? Should I hire him as a coach? Because their head is cluttered with all this other false information. Because it's false. I mean, if it's not giving you a result, it's false.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got all this false information, right, cluttering up your mind. So now when a piece of truth comes along or a very simple piece of information, right, that could help you a lot, you don't get it. Because you have all, it's like dropping having like a eyedropper and dropping water into the sea. It's like it just blends in. You lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to how I want to end the show. So one of the things that I have been working on personally, and Emma will tell you this because we've just recently talked about this, okay, is being unfocused. Being unfocused.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is if I know I got this path and I got to go from number 3 to number 10 and I'm not focused on that, something might come along that might catch my attention and might even be a little bit fun, and I could hobby horse with it. Hobby horse means go play, like go off and have these fun little projects, right? And get distracted.
Mm.
And then either totally forget about step number 4 or boggle my mind up and get a disease in there of other ideas that are not getting me closer to step number 5. Because I allowed this unfocused, because I don't have a focus on I got to get step number 4 done.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the 4 things I got to do. And be tenacious, ruthless about getting them done in my own mind. Right? And if you don't do that, then what will happen is somebody will have a video, somebody will have a webinar on let's say step number 4 is I don't know, pick something. I forgot what we were talking about for an example.
Getting a room painted, getting the house painted, or finding a painter.
Right, finding a painter.
Yeah.
So somebody might get distracted with, there's a webinar about how to hire contractors. I better go watch that. And now they'll spend 3 hours at night about how to hire contractors and get all these ideas of how they need to hire a contractor, but didn't hire the contractor. It's easy to get distracted with that stuff.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. You just need to be careful with the information you're receiving. Because if you're not qualifying your information, like, is this important, isn't this important, you won't be able to use the information. And if you don't know what the existing scene, if you don't know what the ideal scene is and what the existing scene is, you won't be able to isolate, well, this is what I need to do next, and then get distracted with qualifying information because you don't qualify it, because you think it's important, but it's not, because it's not getting you your result. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, what good is having information if you can't apply it?
Yeah, totally.
And when you apply it, you get a result, right? Something happens. I want to paint this room. What's the result of this room, of me wanting to paint this room?
Should be painted.
Should be a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to look good?
I hope so.
I didn't say that. I said I want to paint this room.
Okay.
Does it have to look good?
If you're painting in my house, you better be.
Does it have to look good?
Well, if you didn't specify that.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, because some people, some
the ideal scene was I want to paint this room.
Yeah.
See how tricky that is?
Yeah, I want this room to look. No, I talked to contractors, and we've had some problems with guys, and I've talked to other guys, and he said, people told me, like, when I do my work, when I'm done, I want it to look good. I want to be proud of it. I want somebody to say, hey, you did a nice job, and I never want to be embarrassed. Not everybody's like that.
Right.
They'll just do whatever they do. And
well, let's just pick apart that room. So there's damage on a couple of these walls where pictures were hung up and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So if the ideal scene is I want to paint this room, what is the result?
You paint over the holes.
Right?
Yeah. And I say that because we've seen that.
Because
I
had a painter that did that. He painted the room.
And he painted the holes.
But
he did not fill the holes.
Not only that, but he painted a door that had a poster on it. Didn't even take the poster off the door. He painted in Middletown. He painted right over the poster. I went back like 3 weeks later, and I peeled the poster off the wall. It was taped to the wall. I mean, to the door. It was in a garage, but it was taped to the door. And he didn't even take, because he did what he was hired to do. He painted the door.
I paint the wall.
Yeah. You see how this is?
It's horrible. But not everybody's like that. Some people, so you have to pick the right guy. Because how do you think? How do you go to sleep at night?
Or you yourself get better at what you do, so those things don't happen. When you write the scope of work, which is the point of a scope of work, what is the point of a scope of work?
Well, it lists everything that needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what you think the purpose of a scope of work is? It's a trick question. I don't know if you heard me say it recently.
No.
Okay, so that is true. You want to list all the work. You want to have a guideline of what work needs to be completed, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think that's all good.
Yeah.
The undercut of a scope of work, the purpose of a scope of work, is so that when the contractor comes in to bid on the price, you've put his attention on the out points. In other words, there's a hole in the wall. I want you to fix it. I'll give you a classic example in Jesse's house. In the living room, there's the floor needs to be repaired in 4 spots. So when I told her to write the scope of work, I put repair wood floor, and then in parentheses 4 spots.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Because otherwise, how do I know the contractor won't see 1 spot, not the other 3? And then here's what happens: he fixes that 1 spot, and you come in and you're like, "How come you didn't fix the other spots?" He says, "Well, it's not. It's not in the scope of work." What do you mean it's not in the scope of work? Well, you said fix the spots on the floor, so I fixed the spots. I didn't see that. Okay, so you kind of make amends a little bit. Okay, I'll fix it. I screwed up. Okay, good. Then next week you go in the bathroom and the same thing happens. And then next week, the next few days later, you're in the basement, same thing happens. Next thing you know, it happens 3 or 4 times, and the contractor's thinking, "I'm doing all this extra work." See how
he didn't bid on that. He bid on less
because he didn't see it.
Yeah.
So you're thinking that he looked at a room and saw holes in the walls. Mm-hmm. You're assuming that. Mm. I mean, we're way in the profound pool today. I mean, we're way deep. I mean, maybe it's just me and where I'm at today, but I'm telling you, I go through this with my coaching clients. This is like I'm taking material out of my coaching clients and I'm talking about it for free on an airwave. And I don't mind the for free part. I'm just saying that because it's for free, the people that are listening to us right now may not take us serious.
Oh no, Matt! I hear the calls. I was listening on the way down. And it's trouble when you don't do it right. And you're right. It's not the contractor's problem. It's yours. So you got to do it right in the first place. The scope work has to have every detail, has to have 4 holes in the floor, because you won't get the right bid. And then when you ask him to do what he should have done in the first place, he gets mad.
Right.
And he's getting mad because he should have seen it.
Right.
And he's embarrassed or something, so he just gets mad about it.
It doesn't turn out good.
No, it doesn't turn out good.
So,
and then it costs extra money that you weren't planning on, and no wonder the other guy charged me more. Maybe he would have done all that at that price.
Oh, wait a minute! We're only at the front door with this problem, because now here's what happens. Now there's 3 contractors in the job, and he's sour. What did he just do to the other 2 guys?
Oh yeah.
Sour apples get sour apples, man.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you got overages. Next thing you know, the job's not going well. You got stress because they're arguing. They teamed up against you, and they're beating you up. I mean, it just gets it gets horrible. So when I hear that there's a problem with construction, and I hear one of my students talking about it, first thing I think of is the scope of work wasn't done right.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and you don't even need to be you don't need to know anything about construction. I mean, obviously, it's helpful if you do, but here's what you need to know. You need to know what the ideal scene, what you want it to look like. Mm-hmm. And your job is to paint that picture. Okay? And the way you do that is you stand in a room and you look around the room and you observe. The door handle's broken. Mm. Look at it. There's a scratch in the right-hand corner of the wall. Mm. Now when the contractor comes in, he knows how to fix it and what's important and what's not important. Let him guide you through. The point is with the scope of work, you brought it to his attention. Somebody has to look at it. So now when you go back and you're like, well, I brought it to your attention in the estimate. Your job is...
If it's written down, it's written down.
Your job, it's right, becomes
If it's not
true.
written down, it's you.
Yeah.
You have to write it.
right? So you need to really be careful with, and I suggest you do it with a couple people, 2 people, 3 people in a room when you first do it, because there's things you're going to miss. How do I know I did this? I still miss things.
You know what you're also doing that I don't know if you realize you're doing it, but you must be imagining yourself going through the room and using the room. Because I could look at a wall and see the wall, but if I imagine myself walking through and using, I would go, oh, there's no switch there. But you have to imagine
that's part of it.
Using.
That's part of it.
Right?
What I do, that is definitely part of it.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I take it one step further, as always. The biggest stress point of any one of my flips or jobs is this. Transitioning. I was just telling Emma. Emma and I had a whole conversation about this yesterday, which gave me the idea of doing the show today, by the way, Emma. Thanks for that nice lunch yesterday. So, conversation at lunch, I should say. The biggest stress I have in all my flips, the number one stress point for me, okay, I have all the lawyers, all the hard money, the private money, the hiring contractors, insurance, material lists, out of all that stuff, and there's a lot, okay? The transition from the contractor to the realtor. That is the most stressful point for me.
Yeah, at the end.
So the contractor's done. He's finishing up, wants his check. He's trying to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You got all these little things that he wants done, right? So he's all, right? And you think you got him finished. You bring the realtor in and she goes, oh, you got to fix this and you got to fix that. Because the realtor wants a really simple sale. They don't want to deal with the objections because they don't know how to deal with objections, most of them. So they don't want to have to deal with, oh, well, the floor's crooked. Or, oh, there's a hole in the wall. Which would be stupid, but, or, there's a handle missing on the faucet or stupid things.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you one. I'll give you a classic one.
The dishwasher isn't hooked up to electricity.
Yeah, well, that has to be hooked up. That's just a dumbass thing.
Yeah, but it happened. That's why I'm saying it.
Because that was a scope of work. Our scope of work sucked.
Yeah. Well, we wound up having different people come in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It crisscrossed a little bit.
Our scope of work sucked. Our scope of work needed help. I mean, we did a scope of work and it was okay, but that's why that happened. Okay? All right. How about this one? I got a house that has a basement, obviously. We have basements here.
I don't.
Right.
I don't know where it went, but
so somebody kind of half-ass finished the basement. This is Wilmot Street, right? They kind of half-ass finished the basement. So it's like there's walls and there's actually a stove down there, and they would go down there and cook, right? So all I did was just kind of remove everything. There was workbenches and all that. I just removed everything, and I painted, and left it to the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it, instead of having just a floor, like a concrete floor, I put a rug down.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make it so somebody would come downstairs and want to do their laundry and they can come in their stocking feet, and right? So when I rugged the floor, the rug guy, now the oil tank is about 2 feet off the ground, 2.5 feet off the ground. He rugged under the oil tank. And my realtor's telling me, why'd you rug under the oil tank? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So one of her clients made a comment about that. So now every time I talk to her, she's like, well, you're not selling a house because it's rugged under the oil tank. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost ludicrous.
Mm.
It's like, really? So tell me you'll pay this much money for the house, and in the contract just say, I don't want the rug under the oil tank. And I'm like, I don't even know what to say about that. But this actually happened to me this week or last week.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Well, people have the problem if they hear somebody say something or 2 people say it. No, everybody. They start thinking like everybody's going to think like that.
It's exactly, that's right, Peter. It's exactly what I'm saying. The qualification of information is what I think that's what you're saying. The qualification of information. They think everybody's going to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one person that probably just made a passing comment, and I'll bet you $100 in dinner that it wasn't even the potential buyer, it was the realtor that implanted that idea into the buyer's head. I would guarantee that it probably wasn't even the buyer. So the transition from the contractor to the realtor is always, to me, that's the most stressful point, because it's opinions. It's all opinions. So the scope of work. So when I'm walking through a house and I'm doing a scope of work, I'm thinking, what is the realtor going to say? Because who do I sell houses to, Peter?
The realtor.
Yeah. If you sell the realtor, then they find the buyer. They'll find the buyer, or he.
Yeah. Well, they have to believe it.
So if you sell the realtor, they will find the buyer. They'll go through the obstacles and things because they believe in the house. They believe that they could sell this house and they can get a commission. So you sell the realtor. You have to sell the realtor. And if you don't do that, you will drop your price significantly, and it will sit. You need to sell the realtor. They need to get passionate about it. They got to like the house. They got to feel good about it. They got to go in, and because ironically enough, at least around my area, most realtors are not taught salesmanship skills. So, they have a buyer that gives them an objection, stall, or resistance, like I need to think about it, or like there's rug under the basement, under the oil tank. They don't know that that's just a complaint. That's not a true objection. That's not a true stall. It's not true resistance. It's just a complaint. And it could be handled easily. You just don't even you acknowledge it and move on. It's not stopping them from buying the house. And if it does, it'll show up again. And you just say, okay, if I would have fixed the rug underneath the oil tank, would you buy the house? And then you just put it in a contract.
Yeah, that's an amazingly valuable handle that I heard you say long ago and several times, because otherwise you'll worry about everything. Well, what if? And you can't fix a house up so that everybody would like it.
Right.
But if they will have a complaint about one thing, fix it. Because you're buying a house. You're not buying every detail. Things change, but you got the house, you got the location, you got the land. Things that won't change, and the little things that can change them, and not worry about it. So you handle that beautifully.
Right. So the important thing that I want to make now, we talked about just construction and rehab today, which is just because that's what most people could relate to.
Yeah, that's what's happening lately.
Yeah. So because there's a lot of HUD houses right now, there's a lot of, the money's kind of flowing again. I personally think we're at the peak of our market right now. Again, depending on what Trump does in office with his tax laws, I'm not sure about that, because that's something new that nobody's ever done before. So it's like factors I don't know how to think with. But if he doesn't, I think that by, we're in 2017 now, I think by next year we'll be in for another landslide of some sort. So that's my opinion. I have statistical things to back me up, which I won't cover now. But I think by this time next year it will. If Trump's thing doesn't do I don't know about that. That's the wild card for me.
Yeah.
I think the economy, the flipping business will be affected again. I think. Which means. Which is great. I can't wait, because I hate doing these flips. And we're poking around, and I've noticed with my students and stuff. I mean, lease options and subject twos. Those deals are out there, but because somebody can put their market on the house, they can put their house on the market and get cash easily or easier. Then those options don't always work as well. They do work, but not as well. So you got to work. You just got to have better salesmanship skills or better objection handlings to get those deals. But I hope that I portrayed today, because this is the hardest part. This topic today, I've ignored it and not talked about it because it seems a little bit deep. It seems like it's a hard subject to get people to understand. Unless you've experienced it, then it's real easy to understand.
Yep.
So to tell somebody, around the next quarter there's a puddle, make sure you don't drive through it because you'll lose your car. They may not believe that there's such a puddle. You know what I mean?
It's only a puddle.
Yeah, it's only a puddle. So what happens is you think normalcies are good. Or normalness is good, and it's not. Having normal things is not good, because you get lazy and you don't see things and you stop observing. You know, you have to be totally awake and aware. And if you're in a normalcy and you're just kind of like going along like automatic, you're kind of like in the ether and you're not really awake and you're not really observant. You have to be awake when you're, I mean mentally awake. You know, not just part of the herd. You know, doing what everybody else does or what everybody else says to do. You can't do that.
So it probably doesn't help that people go from a computer screen to a TV screen, to a phone screen, to a TV screen, to a tablet screen, to a phone screen. No names mentioned.
To a house.
Yeah, then they can't see the house. Because it's not like right here in a screen somewhere telling them what to see. Telling them what to focus on. I'm serious.
So I hope I got across today in today's show that common sense, you know, how you're going to use it, we went over that. And the step-by-step. The most important thing you should get out of today's show, I think, is A, how to evaluate your information. You know, how you're qualifying your information. Is it important information or non-important information? And try to hang on to the senior pieces of information, right?
Yep.
Kind of like if you had a triangle and the information at the top of the triangle held the whole triangle together, then that's something to hang on to.
Right.
You know, you may not want to have all the information in the triangle, but that one piece of information you would want, right? And the other thing that I hope people really walk away with, that I can't tell you that the most valuable point of my coaching group or my mentoring program is getting my students to reel it in, stay on the system, and just do the next step. I mean, how many times have I done that with you? You've experienced the other end of it. You'll be like, I'm like, whoa. Let's just do the next step because we don't have all that information. Well, this could happen and that could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So let's just do the next step. It's cause and effect. Let's cause this and see what effect it creates. Okay, it created that effect. Okay, let's do this now.
I just did that on the way in this morning. So one of your students found a house. He wants me to go see it. I said, you didn't do the form yet.
Right.
So, you know, just do the next step. Get the form. Get the information. Right. The house may not be for sale.
Or you may not have a motivated seller.
Well, it's an empty probate house. They do want to sell it, or they want to do something with it, but maybe they're giving it to one of their kids.
Right.
I said, just do the next step, and then we'll go look at it. I'll have, but you'll look at it with Bill. But, you know, I just had to do it this morning, and how many times have you said that?
Right.
You know, they wanted to, like, just get in there.
Just do the next step.
Yeah, ask all the right questions. So when you do get in there, you know what to say, but it's the next step.
Right. All right, so to kind of end off, because I don't want to leave everybody in mystery, we good with questions, and we're all set. To end off, what I'd like to do is say that obviously if you are interested in how we do things, which you don't have to be, if you're here I'm assuming you would want to be, if you're interested in how we do things, there's a couple things you can do. And we're changing some of this stuff, so I'm sorry for the different URLs, but if you just go to flippinghouses.club, you'll find it there. Or you'll go to flippinghouses.club/coaching101. They're both the same. That you can do either one. Okay, so flippinghouses.club or flippinghouses.club/coaching101. What we've done is we've really tried, when I say we, I mean all of us, have really tried to simplify this so it's not complicated. We're actually using Facebook, a private group in Facebook to teach people. And when you go into this group, there's 8 modules in there that show you how to get started, how to get your marketing, how to get people to call you, how to handle the prospect-suspect form, how to do a lot of this stuff we're talking about. It's not the entire system. It's enough to get you started so you can figure out if you want to move on, okay? But I only charge $67 a month for that. So it's a great way for anybody to get started. They can at least get in there, get used to us, get used to how it's going to be, at least get used to the industry and actually do things. Like when you first came with me, that's exactly what happened, right? You were like, no, just do this, Peter. And so it's cause and effect. I told you do this, and an effect happened. Yeah. And you call me up, and you're like, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah, I didn't know where to start because I went to one of the websites of one of the best guys in the country, and it was just a long list of which one do I look at first?
Right.
It's like that's it's not even organized. So I should sit there for hours and hours and poke through and juggle it myself. I can't do that
with no results.
Well, yeah, that's besides just Yeah, of course that wouldn't happen because you're too lost.
Right.
So, yeah, he just got me doing a step that got me another step, and it was like 2 weeks, and boom, things started clicking.
Right. So if you go to flippinghouses.club or flippinghouses.club/coaching 101, you'll get that information. And the best part is just because I'm kind of a ballsy type of a guy sometimes, just so if you want to check us out, it costs you $1 for 30 days. Go in and try it out for $1.
$1.
So so you pay $1, you get it for 30 days, and then you get all the simple stuff. You use all the material. Not everything's there because we drip some content. You can buy it sooner if you want. If you want the whole thing for $67, you can do that. And then what happens is after the 30 days, you get charged $67, or if you don't want to do it, you just cancel it. Okay. And then if you want advanced coaching, just go to flippinghouses.club and just what does the link say, Em?
Advanced coaching.
No, on the front page it doesn't say that. Other courses we offer or something like that.
Flippinghouses.club/advanced coaching.
Oh, she's saying just go to flippinghouses.club/advanced coaching, and it explains the coaching group.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to say that's done by application only. I'm kind of picky on who I put in that group, so it's not all about money. I mean, although money is important, I want to make sure you have good exchange, but it's more about your intention and where you're at. And if you're really serious, I'm very serious. I mean, tonight at 6 o'clock, I got to go out. I don't want to do it, but I got to go out to one of my coaching clients. He's got somebody that's got a real hot deal, and I got to go sit there and do a presentation for him. Mm. And my money doesn't change. I just got to go out and help him. Mm-hmm. And I just do. And now obviously there's people around the country. I can't do that for everybody, but I make sure that you have what you need. Anyway, so that's flippinghouses.club/advanced coaching. And then, of course, in the end of the show, you'll hear our little trailer when we go off, and it gives our email address. But if you have any questions, it's info@flippinghouses.club. Any questions about this show? We broadcast this on a live stream in Facebook, Eastern Standard Time, every Thursday morning from 9:30 to 10:30. And except lately the show's going 10:40. But we broadcast between 9:30 and 10:30. So if you are so inclined, you can come onto Facebook. You can actually watch us live and actually ask questions. Emma's behind the scenes, and if you have a question, she'll let us know, and we'll answer any questions while we're here. Today we were kind of on a roll, or I was on a roll. But I think what we talked about today is extremely, extremely like nuts and bolts. It's like way in the center of how this business works. And the reason why people don't talk about it is because it's not a profit. You can't explain it to people and say, give me your money. I'm not asking for that. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just telling you this is how it works. These are not sexy topics. And the worst part of it is that you don't realize that it's happening until you actually start doing the business and experience some of the stuff, and you actually have to go through it.
Yeah, but that's the stuff that people are worried about, which is why they don't really get into the business and
Right.
spend the money and start. They're worried. What if I don't know this? What if I don't know that? I've stalled 3 times at least 3 times as a young person, and finally got to the point where it says, "Well, I think there's ways to do this that I don't need $10,000 to get going or something like that."
Right.
But then I figured better to call you. So, yeah, if you want to actually get going, actually do something.
We're helping the working man. We're trying to help the guy get out of the trap. And the best part about the Facebook group is you can ask questions. And if I don't answer them, Jesse's in there, you're in there, Lisa's in there, and there's other members that are in there. So you will get your questions. If you have questions, there's a place to go. You can get your questions, and you're not left alone. You're not standing all by yourself. We didn't take your money. We didn't take your $30,000, and you're wondering when you're going to get your question answered.
Yeah,
We're
this
not
really
doing
is
that.
safety net.
Yeah,
You should stick that word in there someplace because that's
safety net.
really /safety net.
Right, exactly.
When people get, seriously, people will do a deal, and someone will think, like, crap, what's that? What do I do now?
Right.
So it's
The
the
best-
safety net link.
The best part to what you're saying, you're correct, because the best part about what you're saying is we're going to end this show, this podcast, and I'm going to go upstairs and use the little boys' room, and then we're going to come back down, and we're going to actually go into the private Facebook group, and we're going to be there for a half an hour, 45 minutes, answering any questions. So it's like where you're going to go for a half an hour, or 45 minutes, or an hour if we have a lot of questions, and you and I are going to just answer their questions. Whatever questions they have, they're going to type it in, and we're going to have an after podcast show right? Answering their questions. So for $67 a month, you're going to get, how many videos you think are in there, Emma? Take a guess. 30, 50. There's like a lot of videos in there. All my marketing, all my letters. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in there for $67 a month, right? And so you're definitely, and then have the group support, and then have us in there for up to an hour a week to ask questions. I don't know what else to do. It's like a giveaway.
There's only one more thing you can do: charge too much.
Yeah, or go do the deals for him and take the money. So, all right, Emma's giving me dirty looks. We're out of here. Time up. She's like, Dad, end it, Dad.
So bad.
Oh, she's got to use the bathroom. All right, good.
We do
So
have a 2-bedroom house.
yeah, we do have a 2-bathroom house. All right, good. So we're over and out. We'll see you next week, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, Thursday morning. If not, go check out. We're not taking the archives off of Facebook. Go watch them. See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.